This segment is powered by The Gun Store. Want to shoot a real machine gun? Then visit The Gun Store at 2900 East Tropicana in Las Vegas. What's up, guys? It's Dave Farra for MMA 30 at The Gun Store today with Ryan Couture. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. Tell us what we're here for today.
It's a Coalition Against Cancer event. The Gun Store is donating part of the proceeds today from the Coalition packages that they sell to Aint Chemo, which happens to be my favorite nonprofit.
And what exactly does Aint Chemo do?
They provide support and comfort items to people who are fighting cancer and going through chemotherapy.
Now, today is Saturday, March the 12th, and it's an interesting day because some huge news just came down today that is going to affect your professional career one way or the other. The UFC has purchased Strikeforce. When I first heard about it, I thought it was a joke. I had to make sure that it wasn't April 1st. I wasn't sure that it was actually reality. What was your first reaction?
Same. I couldn't believe my ears, and I had to check the calendar, make sure it wasn't April. But you know, I'm excited. I think there will be some changes, but I think it'll be for the good.
So the UFC coming in and buying Strikeforce, what do you think that means just overall for the sport of mixed martial arts?
You know, it definitely narrows some of the options for the fighters as far as different companies to work with. But I think on the whole, it's going to make things more stable for those of us who are under that umbrella. And I think it sounds like they're still going to run the two shows separately. So I think it'll be good.
You look at the organizations that do exist, and Sengoku seems like they're just about to fold. At least that's a lot of the rumors that I'm hearing. Strikeforce has now been bought. There's Bellator out there. But the UFC, the WEC is now rolled in. Do you think that eventually the UFC is going to roll Strikeforce in, much like they did with the WEC?
I think it'll depend on how the brand performs for them. If they're able to make it lucrative to run two separate brand names, then I think they'll keep doing that. But if it financially doesn't work out, then they'll roll it in like they did with the WEC.
Let's take it from the top. I mean, Strikeforce is a strong organization that has its own TV deals. Showtime, of course, is the TV deal that you benefited a lot from because that's where you fight for Strikeforce. But Dana White has very publicly said that he's not a big fan of the guys over at Showtime. Do you think that relationship is going to be hurt now because of the way that Dana White feels about the execs at Showtime?
It sounds like, obviously this is all still really new, but from what I've heard, Scott Coker's still going to run Strikeforce as he has been, so I think that relationship will remain strong. I know he gets along well with the Showtime folks, so it should be good to kind of keep business moving along as it has been.
Do you think having Dana White in the house is going to help with some of the things that maybe Strikeforce was lacking?
Well, I think the biggest thing is it's going to free up the Strikeforce shows to be promoted as thoroughly and as properly as they need to be. In the past, we've had to worry about being counter-programmed by the UFC, and now that concern's out the window because obviously they're the same company now. But so I think that's going to be the biggest thing is we're really going to be able to see Strikeforce realize a lot of its potential with some of these great shows they've been putting on that not as many eyes have been seeing because the promotion's been limited.
I just saw a tweet literally a couple of minutes ago that there's going to be Strikeforce commercials for the Diaz versus Daly fight in UFC 128. How odd do you think that's going to feel?
It's going to be a little bit of a shock, but I think it's a good thing. I'm excited about it.
Now, Paul Daly, of course, left the UFC, and there was this big dark cloud, and he's not the only one. Josh Barnett's name, of course, comes to mind. How do you think the relationship is going to hold up with guys that have been kind of booted out of the UFC now that Dana White is in charge and the UFC has purchased Strikeforce?
It's going to depend completely on how closely involved Dana gets in the day-to-day operations of Strikeforce. I think as long as Scott Coker's still speaking for that organization and running the show, then everything will be fine. If Dana decides to take a more active role, then that could obviously cause some contentious relationships. But, we'll have to wait and see.
To speculate and see how this plays out for your career in particular, where do you think this leads you? Do you think that this opens the door for you to possibly cross over and fight some of the guys that are in the UFC's lightweight division, or do you want to stay in Strikeforce exclusively?
I think right now the Challenger Series on Strikeforce is the best fit for me, but I hope that down the line this will open the door for some bigger matchups with some of those top guys. I'm excited to have that many more new challenges open up for me in the future.
One of the first things that you said is that this limits the options for some fighters. If there was bad blood between Dana White and a fighter, they would sometimes go over to Strikeforce, much like what happened with Paul Daly. Do you think this creates a big problem for guys that want to fight here in the States now? If they can't strike a deal with, say, Bellator, do they really have anywhere else to go?
I'm sure, if nothing else, another promotion will come along and try and fill that gap. But it definitely seems like we're moving in the direction of everything consolidating under the Zuffa banner, which it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
5 years from now, do you think there's going to be any other organization other than the UFC?
I'm sure there will always be competition.
Ryan Couture, thanks for your insight. Really looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. And your next fight, when's it coming up?
I've heard potentially June, but nothing's official yet. So hopefully early summer.
Thanks for your time, Dave Farra, alongside Ryan Couture for MMA 30.
I'm here at the gun store and I'm ready to lock and load. They say what happens here stays here. So how about something you'll never forget?
This is the adult Disney World right here.
Like hitting up the shooting range just a few miles off the strip at the one and only gun store.
I've never shot a gun before, so...
This is going to be great. You're going to like learning to drive at the Indy 500.
Turns out, I'm a natural.
Oh, whoa! That is awesome!
Right. Yeah.
Machine guns, rifles, Glock, no weapon off limits.
This is probably one of the very few places in the world you can shoot one of these without having someone shoot back at you.
Never shot a gun before? No problem.
There's no license required by you. You just have to be big enough.
Perfect for bachelor or bachelorette parties. Lots of packages to choose from. There's even a VIP range.
We give refreshments. It's private. It's quiet.
Purchase your own at the gun store or just stop by for a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Come right on down here. We'll put a gun in your hand. You can be on a range in 15, 20 minutes. No problem.
I love it.